actually have had an ear infection.
Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live on oral health, because today is World Oral Health Day. I'm Rosie. I'm a Plunket Line nurse and a mum of two, and I'll be just here facilitating the chat. But I will hand over to the lovely Shah and Dana to introduce themselves and a bit about their roles, because they are our experts.
Kia ora, my name's Dana. I am an oral health promoter and I work for the Wellington Community Oral Health Service. You'll often see me out and about in the ECE setting. I love working with under fives. But yeah, that's a bit about me, and I'll let our friend introduce herself.
Kia ora, ko Shah toku ingoa. I am an oral health therapist with the Wellington Regional Dental Health Service. I am also a mother of three, so I have a wee bit of experience with the brushing battles, late night feeds, and also all of those other things that come up when you have young children.
Beautiful. So, in today's discussion, we'll be talking about the connection between oral health and mental health, how to care for tiny little teeth, how to get help if you notice an issue with your tamariki's teeth, and some common questions we get at Plunket Line. So, to start us off, where the theme of World Oral Health Day today is happy mouths, happy minds. And basically, that means that we may not always think about it, but your oral health actually has a huge impact on mental health. If we have healthy teeth, healthy smiles, we feel better about ourselves, it can reduce stress, all that kind of thing. And oral health is really a lifelong journey, as we all know, and we want to help our kids get the best start possible. So today we're going to talk about how adults can help care for their tamariki and children in their care's teeth to start that journey to go with. So if we start from the start, when teeth start to appear in pepe, can you tell us about teething, how to brush those tiny little first teeth, and how often?
So we should really start brushing our Pepe's teeth from the moment that they erupt into the mouth, but it's totally fine to start practicing earlier if you've got little practice toothbrushes or even a type of muslin cloth. We want to be brushing them twice a day. A really small amount of toothpaste on the toothbrush is safe for them, and using a full strength fluoride toothpaste from birth is really good as well.
Cool. So what advice would you give parents feeding their peppies in the middle of the night?
I would say that's totally fine, and we don't expect you to go and get a toothbrush and toothpaste out in the middle of the night every time you feed them and brush for 2 minutes. What you can simply do is just get a little bit of muslin cloth with a bit of water on it and just wipe their teeth after you've fed them. That should be fine. It's just really about getting any food and drink off their teeth for that time that they're sleeping. Same goes for during the day. You can brush with a toothbrush. That's awesome. If they're young or teething or it won't let you, a muslin cloth will do the trick as well. And you can start using a teeny bit of toothpaste on it, just like a size of a grain of rice or a half pea size, even less if they're still getting their teeth. But yeah, overnight it's just about making sure that we are wiping the milk off their teeth.
Beautiful. Cool. So if we do go back to teething, can you tell us a little bit about how to care for a baby who is perhaps a bit miserable with their teething?
Yeah, so there are lots of things out there for teething, but my best advice actually is just to use a cold cloth or a cold baby teething ring. You can keep them in a little container in the fridge so that when your baby is feeling a little bit uncomfortable from teething, that they can just have a little chew on that. The most important thing when they're teething is that we're keeping that area clean. So when these little baby teeth are popping up into the gum, sometimes food can get stuck, sometimes residual milk can be on those areas. And if those teeth aren't properly cleaned, then it's going to cause more swelling, so it's going to cause more discomfort. So if they're comfortable to accept a toothbrush, you can even get little silicone toothbrushes, or like I mentioned before, the little finger toothbrushes. That's a really good way to clean along it, but just as good as a little muslin cloth or a little flannel if you've got one at home. You can wipe along those little teeth. You can put the little cloth in a fridge as well so that it's nice and cold when you're wiping. There are other options out there like the teething powders and Bonjela. It's totally fine to use those options, but we just want to keep in mind the ingredients that are on there. So you don't want to be using them too much. I would save those for those really, really desperate middle of the night relief options, because we have to keep in mind that things like Bonjela, they do have alcohol in them, so we don't want to be giving them too much.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. We've got a question come through. Do we start brushing their teeth as soon as it starts showing, or wait for it to be all the way out of the gum first?
So fully out of the, it doesn't need to be fully out of the mouth. As soon as you can see it in the gum, just like I was mentioning with teething, as soon as you can see it in the gum, you want to keep it clean. Even if it's just a tiny little dot of a tooth, you still want to be brushing it. And you can use just the tiniest tiny bit of fluoride toothpaste to help give it a bit of extra strength as well.
Perfect. All right. What are our best food and drink choices for bubbas? Oh no, sorry, we're going to go back to toothbrushing tips. Can you tell us a little bit about how to brush Pepe's teeth right through from sort of them coming through to school age?
Yeah. Obviously, the goal is to brush for 2 minutes, morning and night, using fluoride toothpaste. And we want to encourage kids to spit the toothpaste out once they've done brushing, but not rinse with water. Rinsing with water basically washes the toothpaste off. We don't want them to swallow it, but we want that toothpaste to stay on their teeth a little bit to help protect the enamel. So with that being the ultimate ideal goal, we also realize that kids under 5, especially toddlers, can be tricky. Whether they don't want to let you near their teeth, they don't want to open their mouth, they're too busy, or they want to do it all by themselves, it can be tricky. So we've got a couple of tips that might just help. The first one is changing up your routine. So you don't have to brush in the bathroom in front of the mirror. If you're brushing their teeth, you can do it in the lounge while they're watching TV, in the bedroom, outside. Let them carry on with whatever they're doing. Work around them. As Shah said, another tip is to use a muslin cloth rather than having a toothbrush, especially when they're younger and just getting those first teeth. Another tip, you've probably tried it, but distraction. Let them listen to a toothbrushing song. A new one has just come out today for World Oral Health Day, which is quite cool. Or watch a video, something to distract them. You could even try doing it with them or have them brush with an older sibling. But the main thing is trying to get that 2 minutes in, if possible, and making sure that you're doing it for them. And when they get to the age that they want to do it themselves, that's fine. Let them have a go. But it's really important that you finish up with the brushing just to make sure they get every surface, get all those back teeth.
I think the most important thing when they're learning how to brush is that it's just like anything else. You have to teach them how to do it, and you want it to be a positive experience. Children learn so much from watching. So if you're going to brush your teeth first and show them and make it a really positive experience, something to get excited about, then they're going to be more willing to do it. We've all had those moments where our children just don't want to do anything that we say, and that's okay, but building those habits, so in the morning brushing, in the evening brushing, and making it a routine, something that they're used to, is a really good thing to do. And like Dana was saying, we don't want them swallowing a whole bunch of toothpaste, but we also have to keep in mind that preschoolers don't develop the ability to spit until they're closer to 4 years of age. So that's why we've been talking about small amounts of toothpaste that we're using, so that if they do swallow a little bit, it's not going to be harmful.
Perfect. That actually leads perfectly into a question. Can we use a non-fluoride toothpaste for the first few years as like children are swallowing?
So in New Zealand, we do recommend using a full strength fluoride toothpaste from birth. It's completely up to the parent as to what kind of toothpaste that they want to use, but we recommend a fluoridated one because it gives a little bit of extra strength to the tooth. It interrupts the metabolism of the bacteria that cause holes as well. So a more simplified way of saying that is that fluoride actually makes the bacteria that cause the acids constipated. So it means that they can't cause those harmful acids. So there are a range of non-fluoridated toothpastes out there, but I just can't be confident of what the ingredients are and how they would benefit. So at the moment, my recommendation would be to use a fluoridated toothpaste.
Perfect. Can you give us some examples of toothpastes that are the correct concentration of fluoride?
So we have a list available on our website. There's a really confusing formula, I guess, that we go by, is that we want children to be having a toothpaste that is 1,000 parts per million of fluoride. That can be really confusing when you're at the supermarket because it doesn't always say it. 0.22% of sodium fluoride is the equivalent of that 1,000 parts per million. Still very confusing. But
so we've made a pretty picture for you.
That's beautiful.
I think one of the ones that we get questions about the most is the High Smile toothpaste, which is on there. So at the moment, the High Smile toothpaste meets our regulations. At the moment, all of the Colgate toothpastes meet our regulations. And there are a few options of natural toothpaste. So like that Red Seal one that's on there, it comes in a fluoridated version and an unfluoridated version, but it will usually tell you on the packet. One of the other hard things about toothpaste packaging is that they have ages on them. But in New Zealand, it is safe to use an adult strength toothpaste from birth. So they could be using the same one that you would generally go for in the supermarket.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, the main difference basically is the taste. So
yeah,
that 2 to 5 age group is sometimes a more fruity taste, sometimes a mild mint, but if your child is okay with the taste of an adult toothpaste, there's no reason that you can't be using that, long as you're just using the half pea size until they're about 6, and then the pea size amount. So it's about the amount rather than the age group recommended on the toothpaste. But it is branding as well. So a lot of people say, I only like Minions, I only like Bluey. There's not a lot of difference between them other than those ones on the far side, which are non-minty. So they're sort of our fruity or unflavored toothpaste, as we do find that kids sometimes don't like that spicy mint taste. Yeah.
And same thing that Anna was mentioning. So our children can use the same toothpaste as us, but we can also use the same toothpaste as them. In our house, we had been using the Minions one for a whole year, and it tastes nice. It's fine.
Yeah, I was about to say that Bluey is the biggest encouragement in my house for teeth brushing.
You've got to do whatever's going to work, right?
Yeah, exactly. We've got another question from someone in the audience just saying that her daughter still has a bottle of milk during the night, and mum's giving her a sip of water to rinse. Is that enough?
That is a really good thing to do. I used to do the same thing with my daughter when I was feeding at night. I'd give her a rinse of the water. I would still recommend, if you're comfortable, just getting in there with a little cloth and wiping her teeth with your finger as well, because we just want to make sure that we're removing as much of the milk as possible. Milk is amazing, but it does still have natural sugars in it, and we just want to minimize the risks as much as possible. So just that extra step of giving them a wipe is going to benefit them.
Perfect. And is there an age limit in terms of starting using toothpaste, or is it's just whenever that first tooth pops up?
Yeah,
even if it's really early. Yeah.
Even if it's really early, the current guidelines, like I said, is that a tiny amount of adult strength toothpaste is safe from birth. So yeah, as soon as that tooth pops in, you can be using it.
Beautiful. So what talking about diet, what's the best food and drink choices for our tamariki to consider for their oral health?
While we're on the topic of milk, may as well talk about drinks. So we would always say that milk and water are our best drinks. Water is going to hydrate you. It's got nothing added. It is hydration in its purest form. Water's great. It helps to rinse food off teeth. So we always say have a glass of water after your meal. And milk is really great because it helps to strengthen your bones. It does have a little bit of naturally occurring sugar, but pretty much all the food and drink we have does. It is basic rather than acidic as well, so that's quite good for our teeth. But yes, stick with water and milk would be our recommendation. And then if you're going to give kids juice or fizzy drink or anything, just minimize that to being on special occasions. Drinks like Coca-Cola and fizzy drinks, we know have quite a bit of sugar. But other things like fruit juice and smoothies do as well. And whether it is added sugar, artificial sugar, or naturally occurring, it all has an impact on our teeth. So you'll find that fruit juices and smoothies still can have quite a bit of sugar. Same with things like chocolate milk. So at the end of the day, we'd say stick to water and plain milk where possible for drinks.
When we're on the subject of milk, what about plant-based milks?
What would you say?
So with plant-based milks, that is the only option for some of the patients that we see. We just always advise parents to be really careful about what they're buying. So there are some that are unsweetened. That's obviously going to be better. And unfortunately, some of the options that we have really high amounts of sugar, and they're often the ones that taste better. So just being really aware of the back of the packet or the back of the carton to make sure that you're buying the lowest possible sugar product. And then it is the same kind of thing that Dana was saying just before. It's good to rinse your mouth out with some water afterwards, because there are naturally occurring sugars, but like I said, that's the only option for some families. So sure. Just being really careful and aware.
Cool. Thank you.
And if we go back to foods, We are basically wanting to provide kids with real whole foods. Things like fruits and vegetables, grains, meat, dairy products, all of those things are really good. What we are wanting to avoid where possible is processed foods that often have added sugar, salt, and fat. What I've written up is just some tips to make food interesting. If you think about adding flavor with herbs and spices rather than salt or sugar, think about preparing food in different ways that might be interesting for kids. We've got to take into consideration choking hazards while they're young, but there are some different resources on interesting ways to prepare foods, whether it be grating your fruits and veggies, stewing or baking fruits, and cooking things in different ways just to change up the texture, the taste, adding herbs and spices. But basically it's about eating from a range of different food groups, and just limiting those sugary treat foods to special occasions. And that could be muesli bars, biscuits, chocolate. There are a lot of things with hidden sugars, such as dried fruit, where the sugar in the fruit is really condensed, juices, things like that. But Shah can probably add more on that as well.
So when it comes to Kai for this young age group, it can be a really exciting time, but it can also be a really frustrating time as our children exercise their own free will. But like Dana was saying, we try to encourage people to have non-processed foods. So we want those natural fruits, vegetables, meats, and we want to try and minimize the amount of sugars that they're getting. I think it's also really important to think about as they're growing. So for our really small age group, you're not going to have to worry too much about them chewing. They're moving the foods around. You're probably having grated or pureed foods. But as they're getting older, we want to be encouraging them to use their jaw, to develop their jaw. So chewing on things like carrots, apples, nuts, it helps everything to develop and it helps everything to grow in a normal way. So as they're getting older, processed foods tend to be a lot softer. So that is just another reason to recommend whole fruits and vegetables and whole foods.
And we find that whole or less processed foods also tend to fill you up a bit more. So I don't know if you've eaten one of those snack packs of chips or a couple of biscuits, but I always find I'm hungry afterwards. Whereas if you take less processed foods from a couple of different food groups, say apple and some cheese slices or peanut butter with a fruit or veggie, that fills you up because it's got some proteins and carbs, some fat, which is going to keep your kids full for longer and give them the energy they need to go about their day without the sugar high and then the sugar crash. Yeah.
Cool. Beautiful. So how can our whānau access dental services?
Yep, so dental care is free for under 18s in New Zealand, which is awesome. If your child is born in New Zealand, they should automatically be enrolled with their local dental service. So we run separate services in each region. If you move region, you'll need to go on the website and manually enroll them, or you can ring through to the national line on 0800 Talk Teeth to get more advice about enrolling with the service. Each region is slightly different, but generally your child will have their first dental checkup between the age of 1 and 2. And from there on, generally they'd have 6 months, yearly or 18-month checkups at their local dental clinic. Dental checkups and treatment are covered within the free dental care scheme. However, there are some services that aren't covered that you might need to pay for. So, for example, if your child has a knock to the tooth, has an accident, falls over, chips their tooth, you would need to do an ACC form and might be seen by a private dentist who would advise whether they charge a co-payment, and some do, some don't, but that's outside of the scope of our service. There are some other things that are not covered. You might be able to talk to them, Shah.
Yeah, so things like orthodontics unfortunately aren't covered in New Zealand. We can provide referrals to see an orthodontist if your child has an issue that we think an orthodontist would be able to help them with. But you don't have to wait for a referral if you're worried about orthodontics. You can access that service whenever you like because it is not covered. And then other things like cosmetic work, tooth whitening, things like that aren't covered by the community dental providers. We're here for the general dental treatment. So we do their checkups, take x-rays, we can offer fillings and crowns, extractions if it comes to it. But the most important part of our role is education and making sure that the whānau in our community have a good understanding of what causes issues so that we can prevent them. We would love to prevent them. If something is outside of our scope that is still covered by the scheme, then we offer a referral, but we need to see the child first before we can do that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That leads perfectly to what a whānau does if they have noticed an issue with their child's teeth, but they're between their regular checkups. Where can they get advice and help for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. If your child is not due for a checkup, that is totally fine. If you've got concerns, it's great that you be proactive and reach out. We would recommend you call 0800 Talk Teeth and you can be put through to your local service. What they might do there is get some more information from you about what's going on. They might ask you to take a photo of your child's teeth, if relevant, and get one of their oral health therapists to give you a ring to discuss. From there, it can basically be decided whether your child needs to come in for an appointment, which we can do, or they might be able to give you some advice over the phone. So any concerns, call 0800 Talk Teeth. That's my best advice. There will be information online and you can ask friends and family, but you're best to give the professionals a ring and find out for yourself. Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you very much. Just got one more question from the audience at the moment. Is it fine to use any kind of soft toothbrush on children or babies' teeth, or do they need to be the ones that are specifically for their age group?
I think when it comes to toothbrushes, the reason that the smaller toothbrushes are better is because they've got smaller mouths. So if we're looking at adult soft toothbrushes, that's probably not going to be that suitable because it'll be hard for them to fit. But this is another one of those situations where it is marketing. So they'll advertise these toothbrushes for 0 to 2, and then you'll think that the next time you're buying one, you'll have to go up to the next size. I have a 8, 10 and 12-year-old, and I kept them on the 0 to 6 toothbrushes for a really long time until my eldest child begged me to get her a bigger one. But I just feel that it is a lot easier to navigate the mouth, and especially if you're having one of those brushing battles with your children, it's a bit easier, it's a lot gentler to get it in there, even if it's just for a really quick brush. I have seen recently some little toothbrushes at the pharmacy that had lights on them, and they would flash for 2 minutes, and they were a nice small soft toothbrush as well. So I think it's just about finding one that is suitable for your family, one that your child likes, but yes, soft is really important.
Cool, awesome. So we've got a couple of questions that we get really commonly on Plunket Line. The first is, how late is too late to not have teeth? So is there an age that parents should start worrying that their child has no teeth yet?
So with our service, and it will change from service to service, but we tend to see our children for their first dental check around about the age of 2. So if we saw a child at the age of 2 that didn't have any teeth, then we'd be looking into that and maybe a little bit worried about that. But if they came in and they had all but their back teeth, we wouldn't worry too much about that. There is a really large range where it is fine to not have teeth. So if they're getting some children are actually born with teeth, but if they're getting their first tooth around about 4 months old, that's still within the normal range. If they're getting their first tooth at 1 year old, that's still within the normal range as well. So there's just a huge variety of children that we see and the timing for their teeth. I would expect by the time you come in at 2 years of age that we would be able to tell you if it was normal or not normal. But I think it is really hard because kids are so different. So you might have an antenatal group and one child's got a full mouth of teeth and then the other one doesn't. And it can even vary child to child. So for my children, my middle daughter was really late with her teeth and the other 2 weren't. But I wouldn't be too worried if a child didn't have many teeth at 12 months of age, but I would be looking into it if they were closer to 2. Yeah.
So should they say a child's 18 months and has no teeth and no signs of teething, should they be calling for an early checkup, or will that be okay to wait until they're 2?
I think 18 months is probably a good time to just make a query.
Okay, yeah, sure, cool. And the other question from Plunket Line that we get quite a lot is teeth grinding. Do you have any advice for parents of children who grind their teeth?
So teeth grinding at this age is one of those really difficult things because there are so many things that can cause it. If you look at research, they'll often say that it's to do with stress, but I don't think I've seen many 4-year-olds that are stressed. So it's all part of that growth. So there are a lot of pressures when your teeth are coming in. We also, when we're going back to orthodontics, our teeth are meant to fit together in a certain position. So if they're not sitting in the normal position, then it can cause some pressures in your jaw or a child's jaw to move in a certain way that could cause some grinding. Because they're growing so much, there isn't a lot of treatment available until they're a wee bit older. So when you're a bit older and you've got some more teeth in, you can get certain night guards made, because I'm assuming that people are calling up because they're hearing it mainly at night time.
Yes.
Grinding can also be more common in children with allergies who might have breathing issues because of the different ways that their anatomy is and the ways that they're breathing when they're asleep. That can be one of the things that they do as well. My best advice for young children when they're grinding is to pop a wee warm flannel on their jaw before bed. It's not a fix-all, but it definitely does help just to relax all of those muscles that are clenching while they're asleep. I would follow advice similar to teething as well. So just trying to cool it down. You probably would find that children are teething. When they're teething, they're grinding more. So there's no fix all. Definitely bring it up at dental checks, but just trying to relax the jaw before bed, and making sure that you're checking into their mouth as well, because it could be an indication that they've got some decay that you might not have noticed, and that's causing pressures and things like that. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a miracle cure for grinding.
That's great. Cool. Oh, good. We've got another question from the audience as well. For a 4-year-old, how do electric toothbrushes compare to manual toothbrushes?
We say that there's good things about both. Electric toothbrushes can be really helpful, but a child still has to have those fine motor skills to use it properly. So it's really about how it's being used, whether they're able to get every surface of the teeth with it, and still brushing for that 2 minutes. So with an electric toothbrush, the important thing is to let the toothbrush do the work. Don't rub it back and forth or around in circles, just holding it on each tooth gently and moving around. And there are also a few different types of electric toothbrushes. There are ones that you can get from the supermarket that are quite affordable and they just vibrate. Or there are toothbrushes such as the Oral-B brand that have an oscillating spinning head. A lot of it's personal preference. I like an electric toothbrush. I feel like it does a better job. If it's going to help your child brush their teeth, then that's really good. Those spinning head ones are good, whereas the supermarket ones, you still need to brush, you still need to do the work, but often because it's vibrating, it feels like it's doing the work, and so you're not so inclined to brush. So it's all about how it's being used, about supervision, and brushing for that 2 minutes. But a manual toothbrush can do just as good a job. So don't feel like you need to go out and buy $100 toothbrush for your child.
Yeah, I think that is a really important thing to keep in mind. If they have an electric toothbrush and they don't like it, then they're not going to use it. But if they don't like their manual one and they do like electric ones, then that's going to be helpful for you. I'll give you a little bit of a story about when my children were smaller. I went and bought them all electric toothbrushes, and they really liked the picture on the toothbrush, but whenever I turned it on, they freaked out. So I wasted a whole bunch of money on these toothbrushes we could only use when they were turned off. Another thing as well to keep in mind about electric toothbrushes is you can buy one of those, the more high-end toothbrushes, and just have a different head for each person of the family. They come with those little rings around them so that you can keep the color different. And just like with a manual toothbrush, you do need to be replacing those heads every season.
Beautiful. That's great advice. So before we sum up, what are your top 5 tips for a healthy smile?
Pretty straightforward, but also good to remember. Brushing twice a day for 2 minutes with a fluoride toothpaste, that is going to be your best bet. Just like having a shower to stay clean, you need to be getting all that food off your teeth. Just to note on that as well, another toothbrushing tip is with kids that are toddlers or under 5 that you're helping them brush, sometimes standing behind them and brushing as if you're brushing yourself can be easier than facing them and trying to brush, just because it comes more naturally, because it's the same sort of position as you would be brushing your own teeth in. Brush twice for 2 minutes a day. Make sure that we are encouraging our tamariki to spit the toothpaste out and not rinsing with water afterwards. So brushing teeth is the last thing we do, spit it out, and no food or drink afterwards, specifically for bedtime. Thirdly, we want to focus on eating kai with no added sugar, avoiding those treat foods or keeping them to special occasions, and focusing on eating from a range of food groups.
Yeah, and keeping water as the main drink, and then, you know, offering plain milk as well, not the sweetened versions of things. Water is neutral, so it helps to neutralize everything in the mouth as well, and just bring the pH to neutral. And then lastly, free dental care for under 18s. So we want you to be enrolled. This is our job. We love seeing children and giving all this type of information, and we can answer, you know, your questions, your queries. So just making sure that you're making the most of this awesome scheme, which is free dental care for under 18s.
Beautiful. All right. Any final advice before we wrap up?
Just exactly what Shah said. Make the most of it while it's free. After that, it's not fun because you have to start paying. So parents and whānau, be proactive. If you set up your tamariki with good oral hygiene, good brushing habits, help them get used to eating a range of different foods, you're going to be setting them up for good lifelong oral health.
Yeah, keeping everything positive.
Yeah.
That's really helpful, especially when they're coming in for their first appointment, because this clinical environment can be a wee bit intimidating. But if you've told them what's going to happen, if you've watched some videos online about what dental checks are like and you've kept it really positive, then they're going to have a positive experience as well.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your expertise. This has been very interesting, and I've definitely taken some tips away myself. And thank you to everyone for watching and your comments, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Cool. Thanks for having us. Ka kite.
Bye.